Mic'd up.
Hey, Michael Miller here. And there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Adam Schneider. Welcome to the January 4th edition. We had a big plan today, but we got blown off by a couple of guests. So, Adam, how's it going? You back from your cruise? You're muted, so that always works out well.
There we
I
are.
can hear you now, sir.
It's good to be back. We had a good time. Fun was had by all. And
Jamie caught up on his sleep. How's his cold?
he's much better. Thank you. That was very funny. And what the good news is we had multiple Kramer sightings.
Yes, well.
Tell the audience about our Kramer sightings.
Well, there's a lot of people out there that look like Kramer, sadly, for the world.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, tonight, we're not going to have any guests. We're not going to have my dopey brothers and the glares off Todd's forehead and Richard's smiley smacker of a face. And we're going to have less sneezing and coughing and nose running, but lots of underarms from Adam. But no sneezing and coughing and drinking during the show like Jamie did. And we will definitely have a lot less nose hair because Kramer will not be on the show.
No Kramer.
No Kramer. So
Kramer free.
And I'm going down to San Diego. I'm going down to San Diego this week before our show, and I'm assuming that I'm going to run into a lot of Kramers on my vacation. And I will share my Kramer pictures with all of you when I come back. Do you have any Kramer pictures you could share on the screen from your vacation?
I do. Can I do that?
Yeah, just hold your phone up to or are you using your phone?
I'm using my phone.
Oh, well, then you can't do it. Unless you have the picture someplace else, you can't do that.
I can do that. Wait a minute. I can do it. There's a way.
You're frozen now.
Stand by. I'll be back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's still like the old AT&T commercials. Can I hear you now?
I've got to get my Kramer.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I didn't think.
No. This is good. This is a very good use of our time, I think.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of Kramers out there in the world. And, we were talking about a couple of things about Kramer. I hope his proctologist appointment that he was telling us about went well.
Did he go to a proctologist?
That's what his text said this morning. He had to go to a proctologist, and then he's got a colonoscopy coming up. So,
And can I ask you a question about that? Why do people feel the need to share information like that?
I'd rather hear that he's going to a colonoscopy than hear about his prep for the colonoscopy.
Well, you showed us your colonoscopy. Still one of the great Michael Miller moments.
How clean my colon was?
It was beautiful. It was a stunningly beautiful colon.
It was stunningly beautiful.
I don't think there've ever been cleaner colons. I'm wondering what you did to do that.
Did you have a pipe
cleaner or something? Did you use a pipe cleaner? I still don't understand.
Well, hey, listen, it's usually just an outdoor. The only one that goes in there is the camera.
Okay, so I've got a Kramer look-alike shot ready for the audience to see.
All right, let's see the Kramer look-alike.
Many people.
We'll do this. Is this the real Kramer or the fake Kramer?
We can switch, can't we? This is a Kramer sighting, if there ever. Now look at that. That's great.
All right, I will say this: from the head, other than the fact that the guy has more hair on his head than Kramer, and less hair on his body than Kramer, and less of a gut than Kramer, the guy is very Kramer-esque.
There's a Kramer-esque quality to this man.
Yes, if you do a close-up of his nose, our audience might recognize it.
Let's just. There we go. There we go.
Wait, I got something to show too, just to compare. Oop, I lost his back. Does it look like Kramer? Here, I'll even turn it.
Here, do it again.
Side by side.
You gotta raise it a little bit. That's perfect.
Side by side Kramers.
That is.
Even when he's not on the show, he's on the show.
I love it. That was a great addition. Thank you. That was one of the highlights of the program.
That might be the best thing we've ever done on our show, quite frankly.
I would say.
It's not a very high hurdle.
How about them Yankees, buddy? So you want to
Well,
talk a little baseball?
let's start with the. I want to start with the topic of the day because it
Okay.
gets me uppity. So the question of the day was how much are the articles and the hot stove articles and the rumors worth reading? And
Mhm.
how much, if any, truth do they contain? Or do these guys just do what clowns like you and I do, which is look at the rosters, look at the available players, look at the projected salaries, look at public statements by the team personnel, and then make crap up just like we do?
Yeah.
How much of this stuff do you think they really get from real sources? And how much of this stuff is just them pontificating and contemplating their navel the way that you and I do?
I think that there's no question they have inside relationships. They have the contacts. They can get information, and they do, because obviously they do report correctly. So, and they're first to report in many instances. So we do know for a reason. We know they must have something working. My feeling on this is more that when they don't have stuff, they still have an obligation to the market, to their bosses, to their papers, or whatever their organizations. They have to be able to talk about something, and especially when a lot of this is just opinion, and a lot of it is just stuff in the ether. They need to kind of create. They got to feed the beast, and I think that that's the problem. But you have to, as a good and a knowledgeable fan, you need to see the difference. You need to see when it's not. It's just talk. I wish my nephew Jeremy, who will be a guest, is a journalist for the Star Ledger in New Jersey, one of our main papers out here, and he used to be on the sports beat. Like, he did a lot of work with high school and college sports. Now he's sort of this, uh, sort of the man about town, does reviews of great restaurants and food. I mean, he's got a great life. Um, but he knows a lot about this. He'd be great to share. I wish I'd gotten him on. I asked him to jump in, so we may get some questions from him.
Hey, I was the man about town for the Pleasanton Patch, and I wrote articles about the artwork on the sidewalks from the dog poop that people didn't pick up, from the park next to the school, which is called Pot Park,
Hmm.
which is its reputation. So I was the man about town. So, anyhow, this is the point I was trying to make as you leave the screen here. The day Yamamoto signed, these were things that were written by various MLB insiders. You ready? On MLB Network, the day that Ohtani signed with the Dodgers. The Yankees are the front runners on Yamamoto. Sorry, Yamamoto signed with the Dodgers. I said that wrong. I apologize. So the first thing they wrote on MLB Network earlier in the day, mid-morning, the Yankees are the front runner on Yamamoto. Bob Nightingale, the Dodgers are making a late pitch for Yamamoto. The Mets bid is coming soon. Bob Klappich, the Yamamoto signing will linger into 2024. Marino Papon, as opposed to Great Papon. He writes the Red Sox offered $300 million to Yamamoto. And then, of course, there was the infamous Yamamoto's going to the Rams game. No, he's not going to the Rams game. And then, of course, he signed during the Rams game. So, I mean, that was just the day that Yamamoto signed. They couldn't even give us a story that was meaningful. And you're talking about MLB Network, Bob Nightingale, Bob Klapish, this Marino Papon, who's a Red Sox beat writer. Then you have stories today, just today. I pulled these just from today. You ready? Montgomery will go to the Rangers by John Heyman.
Saw that.
Montgomery will go to the Yankees from Brandon Scott. The Yankees' top target is now Snell. That's from Josh Benjamin. Here's John Heyman's 3 comments for today. You ready? Hader is linked to the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Tigers. And Imanaga is linked to the Giants, the Red Sox, and the Cubs. And the Yankees don't have any interest in
The
Imanaga.
Yankees are out on him because he's an extreme fly ball pitcher. So that's
whatever. So let me just ask you, Yankees' top target is now Snell. That's not the one. But Hader is linked to the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Tigers. Well, 3 teams with money that need a closer, and then the Tigers. I don't know why they're there. And then the other one is Imanaga's linked to the Giants, the Red Sox, and the Cubs. 3 teams that need a starter. I could have written that rumor. I don't understand, where's the meaningful stuff? And you would think, isn't Heyman the guy that last year screwed up the whole Judge thing?
Yeah, Arson Judge appears headed to the Giants. I mean, sorry, Giant fans.
Wouldn't the guy be more careful this year? I mean, he's allowed to make mistakes, so maybe that's why he's making these broad comments. But What type of insight is that providing by
No,
saying
it
that he's
doesn't.
linked to these teams?
And again, I think that what it's more about is getting people to talk, and maybe because of the nature of social media, that it gets people buzzing about the merits of the decision of the outcome, not necessarily the merits of the content, but the outcome. Like, should the Yankees go for it? Let's get everyone talking about that. It creates more news. It's like the Yankees. Now, think about all the things we've heard in what you said.
Right.
What I've heard is Montgomery's not going to the Yankees because he's really happy suddenly with the Rangers. A couple weeks ago, he wasn't happy, wasn't connected. He was a short-term guy, came in, wasn't connected. Now he suddenly wants to be on the team where he won because there were a bunch of great guys. He doesn't want to go back to the Yankees, even though he grew up here, because of
Insulted him.
stupidest thing. Again, another stupid Cashman, or as my son calls him, Baldy. Another dumb Baldy move, making a comment about, well, he's not going to start in the playoffs for us, which was a dumb statement. You don't make that again. Those are the kinds of things that come back to haunt you and serve no purpose other than to justify your decision.
Those are the same guys who said that Hap shouldn't start in the
Yeah.
playoffs, and then he came in the second inning. Like that makes a
Exactly.
difference.
So yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that they do. But I think what we've heard in that, you heard the Montgomery stuff.
Yeah.
I hear in that statement that the Yankees aren't involved in it. In the Japanese Imanaga, they don't like Imanaga because he's an extreme fly ball pitcher. So that starts a conversation that then leads to more posts down the road. So I think what they do is they drop these little things as a way to get the narrative, take the high road in the narrative, start it, and then let's see where it goes. And maybe it creates more content later on down the road for
Or is
them
it just
to do.
clickbait?
Hmm?
Is it clickbait?
Well,
And they get paid by the
that's
click.
my point. It is clickbait. That's it. It's just designed to get people yapping, looking, and hopefully paying for ads, because that's what sports all is.
All right, so let's get to some of these. Let's see if we can get some of these guys that are
Yeah,
calling in today. We're going to go to
bring 'em on.
Webby. Webby from, of course, the highlights from Low Lifes, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, for 10 p.m. Eastern. A couple of guys drinking beers, pop culture and sports. Let's see what Webby has to say.
Plug.
MLB beat writers have a scoop because they're talking to the management team. But there's a lot of armchair writers out there that are just writing down what they want to have happen without having any knowledge of contracts or club commitments. I even saw an article written by AI a few weeks ago, very interesting, talking about trades and free agent signings that each team should make. But is it real? It's doubtful.
Well, let me respond first and say the beat writers, who are they talking to? Could they be talking to the players since they have relationships with the players from going into the clubhouses every day? Probably not. The players are scattered all over the world. They're doing whatever they want to do. Maybe if you're down in Tampa, you might be able to talk to a couple of Yankees that are working out. Are they talking to management? Well, maybe. Like you said, Adam, they might be talking to management. They have relationships with them. But how many times is management putting them in a misdirection? Right? Or how many times is management just putting out a story to cover their own butts? Like the Yankees, did they really offer 10 years? Did they offer 10 years and 300 million instead of the 12 325 for Yamamoto? Who knows?
And we'll
Right?
find out in a year whether that really happened in
Well,
some
we won't find
stupid
out at all.
article that you'll hear. By the way, the Yankees, you'll see something. This is the kind of thing that you always see from what's his name in the Post.
Heyman, Clappish, Verducci.
No, the other guy from the Post. But what, it doesn't matter. But it'll come out in a year and it'll say Yankees never offered money and that's again also to create sort of a buzz and a conversation. Why didn't the Yankees offer the money that they said that was reported at the time?
Never, and then of course the Yankees went to Japan, saw him pitch a no-hitter, met with him, and then at the end of the day, 2 days before he went and signed with the Dodgers, allegedly Yamamoto asked for a second meeting with the Yankees and had it, and a second meeting and a dinner with the Mets.
Yeah.
The people that these guys are talking to, and I have a feeling that these are people that are actually calling the writers, are the agents.
Mm.
And all the agents are doing is trying to drive up the market for their players. Let's face facts. The agents have one job, and that is to get their players signed for the most amount of money that they can, because they have a vested interest in how much they sign for, because they get a commission which is based on a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom line is that I think most of the BS that comes out is these guys talking to the agents, and the agents calling up John Heyman and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm Hader's agent, and I've talked to the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Phillies and the Tigers in the last week." I think that's basically what's happening. They're not really learning anything. They just listen to the agents say this, and there's a total misdirection by the agents, possibly a misdirection by management as well, because they don't want to drive up the price, whether it be via trade or it be via some other vehicle that they want to sign guys. I think Weber's given the beat writers much too much credit for being forthright and honest and being connected. I think
I
that
think
they're
he's right,
used.
though, to give credit to our colleague over in the other show. I think that he's right about there is another tier. There is another tier of people who are not and trying to break into that echelon of respectability, if you can call it that.
But the John Boys of the world who started out with a stupid podcast like we
Yeah,
have, and then all of a sudden they not
I
only
love
have a
those guys.
podcast for the Yankees, they podcast John Boy podcasts for every team in baseball now.
Mhm.
But
So
I
I
guess
mean, I think it's a really good point. I think that that this is more now than ever. I remember times when we would listen, you'd wait for the 10-10 wins news. You'd wait for the 15 and the 45 on the hour just to hear the next bit of news. I remember when we used.
sports phone
Do you remember sports phone?
976-13
Sports phone, New York Smart, and I used to love that. And we would sit there and we'd call over and over. I remember the night the Yankees made the big trade, the 76 trade, um, and they got Reggie Jackson in a trade, but it really wasn't. It was Grant Jackson. And we
Yes.
were all went crazy. Jackson is traded to the Yankees and we dialed over and over again because we wanted that to happen. It wasn't Reggie. Reggie was still
Grant. I liked Grant Jackson. He was fun to watch pitch.
a good pitcher.
He'd be an $8 million pitcher these days.
Lefty.
Yeah, little lefty from the Orioles for a long
Little
time.
lefty, very little. I think he was like 5'9". Back in the day,
He was thin as real, but he was fun to watch. He pitched well for the Yankees.
But those are the things that we used to do, and that's what. And now the alternative is to just click, refresh on X over and over again, and you know you just get so much crap. I mean,
well, that's the thing is that's people getting their news on the internet, and you got idiots like us out on the internet spewing forth stuff. At least we're not saying, "Hey, we hear this, we hear that." We're just saying we're pontificating that the Yankees should make Torres for Burns as a trade, or they should do something like this, and we're just telling everybody we're making this crap up as we go along. But this everybody's getting their news on the internet. I mean, look at all the conspiracy theory people out there. It's just as bad with baseball. I mean, at least it's not anybody getting killed and attacking the Capitol on January 6th. But still, it's ridiculous.
they were just
It's
having a
just garbage. All right, let's see what Big Juicy has to say. That would be Dave Hall. He's a regular. We like him. You put your bobbleheads much too low. We can't see them. Well, the DeMayo one's always going to be too low, but that's besides. I did get a very nice Christmas card from Dave DeMayo today.
Me too.
Yes.
Lovely family. I like.
Hey guys, Happy New Year. I think the biggest BS story this offseason has been the hoopla around Shohei Ohtani and all the stipulations he put on secrecy and threats to not consider any team that talked about his interactions with that team, or even if he was talking to that team. But yet, at the end, Dave Roberts talks up a storm about how things went with Shohei at Dodger Stadium, and that's where he ends up signing.
Is that feedback coming from you?
No.
Hey, you got two machines on or no?
Just one.
Okay, so I don't know what's going on.
What are you hearing?
I'm hearing feedback. Even when I talk, I'm hearing feedback.
No.
Let's see if I can get rid of that. I'm looking at my phone to see if I have anything open. You hear how awful I sound?
I know what it is. I think it might just be because I'm getting some texts from people, so let me pull them off. Let me just go into.
So Big Juicy has a point, right? They went right around saying that Ohtani didn't want anybody to talk about anything, and that anybody who talked wouldn't get to sign him. And there was the Dodgers manager all over everything, speaking up and doing all sorts of stuff and talking about how he had a great meeting with Ohtani and this went well with Ohtani and that went well with Ohtani. So maybe that's, it was a bunch of BS. And I think that Dave has it right. Ohtani said, "Oh, don't talk about it, or I'm not going to sign." And then, of course, the only people that talked about it is who he signed with. Obviously, Dave Roberts had inside information. He knew that Ohtani was going there from the get-go.
And they probably felt the same way about Yoshi too. I mean, a lot of that was pre-planned. I wonder if this was just one big. This decision was made a long time ago. I wonder if the decision for Yoshi to go was tied to. I mean, I think they all knew. This is just a question. I mean, did they know where they want to go, and they just say this is just use the others? A lot of people feel that the Yankees were used along with the Red Sox. I'm sorry, with the Mets in Yoshi's decision to go to the Dodgers.
For money, they were used for
To
money.
get them
I think
up there.
everybody knew the Dodgers were going for Ohtani,
Yeah,
and then Ohtani structured the contract in such a way that he left a lot of money out there because it was only $2 million a year for these first 10 years. So when Ohtani did that, I'm sure he went to them and said, "Let's go recruit Yamamoto."
yeah. Here's an opportunity I'm giving you right now. Let's go do this. Or this could have been the plan from the get go. Now, remember, they can't talk to one another.
Well, Yamamoto and Ohtani can talk to each other.
They can, but you can't talk. You can't have play teams talking to these guys. But this stuff could all have been worked out behind the scenes with a plan, between the agents, and that's it. And then Otani and who were the agents? Was it who's the guy that Wolf, is that his name? Who's the guy that that got pissed off by he's John Carlo's agent as well.
I don't know whose agent. Yeah, he got pissed off because Cashman said that. Yeah,
Yoshi's agent. Yeah, these guys are getting together, talking about it in towards the end of the season. And this could have been a great plan. It just seems very calculated to me. Otani and Yoshi together seem to be not just a deal that came together, you know, in heaven. This stuff doesn't just happen. It happened because it was planned beautifully. And I think they used the Yankees wonderfully to get them to raise the number. And
I think the Yankees the Yankees offered more per year, but less overall.
because they wouldn't go higher they weren't going to give a rookie. Sorry, because he's going to win the Rookie of the Year next year, and if he has a great season, so he's going to be a $325 million rookie.
Right, but the Yankees offered 10. Yankees offered 10 and 300, which is 30 a year, and everybody else offered 12 and 325, which is less than 30 a year.
Yeah, but the Yankees weren't going to go any higher, and the Yankees, and they're saying the Yankees are devastated by this. I read that today.
I read that today too.
I don't believe it. That's part of this whole conversation. That suddenly evolved to, I think the Yankees had a plan B all along, and it was to go after, this second tier, and that hasn't played out yet.
They haven't done anything. So, and then, of course, the way the Dodgers structured the contracts, which we talked a little bit about last week, where I think that they letting all those guys walk away, signing new guys, but with Ohtani signing for $2 million a year based on cash flow, not based on salary and luxury tax, and then giving Yamamoto $50 million while he's still in Japan so that he doesn't have to pay California tax, which doesn't make sense to me because Japanese tax is much higher. Mm-hmm. Taxes in Japan are much higher than they are even in California. So I don't know exactly how that worked out well for Yamamoto, and how Japanese taxes work. How California and U.S. taxes work is a mystery, but who knows? But the way they structured him, and then he still got class now, and they gave him a huge contract as well. So there's their three starters that they wanted to have, with Walker Buehler coming back and a couple of other guys that they still have hanging around, and they let Kershaw walk so far. Yeah. So, all right. So let's see what. Well, we said we'd have no Kramer. Kramer does have two comments on here. One is one you'll listen to and you'll know exactly why he's not on the show ever again. Maybe no, he'll be back, but this is one of his silly comments.
The biggest BS story of the offseason was the one that reported that K-Dog, Schneider, and Miller were going to comprise 3/4 of the Yankees starting infield for 2024. Happy New Year.
So let me say this, Kramer, there is an R at the end of Schneider, and there's an R at the end of Miller, and we've seen you try and field the ball, they're not putting you on the field at all. You might be able to bat left-handed as you fly across the screen, but you're not going to be playing the field. So let's see what K-Dog really has to say about the topic of the day.
K-Dog here. I think experts are very well-meaning when they report what they hear and what they see. Yes, baseball hot stove rumor articles are sometimes ridiculous, and they come from armchair quarterback fans, so all we can do about those is have a good laugh at them.
It's almost like he was watching you wave the thing there.
Good old Craig.
So, I will say this. We are getting feedback right now from my friend Todd Goober. He is loving the K-Dog action, the K-Dog pictures, the K-Dog bobbleheads. He's having a grand old time.
Thank you. I'm glad.
So we got one loyal customer.
We have a loyal fan, and we are here to amuse.
And our plan is to have Mr. Goober on the show when we talk about the Yankees and the Red Sox rivalry. And Goober doesn't have any R's when he speaks either because he parks his car in Harvard Yard.
Oh, he's
because he's from Boston.
God.
So
we hear, another one of our dear friends of the show.
Yes, Todd Goober. No questions. He won't let us have his voice or likeness.
Did you ever notice that when our dear friend Mr. Weil, Enrico Suave Weil, when he says things, he says like he calls my daughter. I've got a daughter, Bianca. He calls her Bianca.
Right, the R goes on where it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, and then the other way, he misses it. The R doesn't go where it belongs. So he's got Bianca, and then he's got Tyler. His son. So
he's big time Brooklyn, which is very Kramer-esque. But he won't do our show either because he's got to work. Because he's a working stiff.
Actually, you're employed and not retired.
I don't know why he's not retired. I'm retired. I've still got my 3 or 4 jobs. I don't see what the big deal is. Jeez, I'm even applying for new jobs, trying to get jobs doing other things.
And you have to have confidence, Mike. You're going to get one of these jobs. One day you're going to be an executive working with the Yankees.
I'm never going to. That's never going to happen. That would be if I had a job executive working for the Yankees. You'd have to do this podcast without me. I could come on as a guest. It's bad enough I work for the A's, and I told them they should contract last week. So what can I tell you there?
That's right. And you've also told them that you're not taking the job and going to Vegas, are you?
No, I don't know. They do pay me $16.63 an hour.
There's no income tax in
Yes, so it's a raise. But, and I could still continue to teach at the college because I could do all my classes remote. So who knows?
Correct.
So do we have, I'm sick of these insiders. I have YouTube TV, so I don't get MLB Network anymore because I don't know why. They don't give us MLB Network and they don't give us NHL Network. So those things don't, I do miss my Lauren Shahadi every morning. I do love that show with her and DeRosa and what's the other guy's name? Kenny, I think is the guy that's on with them, or whoever it is. Oh no, it's what's his name? Who thinks Houston has the best pizza in the world?
Who would say that?
What's his name? Damn it. I'm gonna get his name because I gotta really insult the guy. MLB Central, I think MLB Morning Show hosts. Robert Flores is the guy. Robert Flores says that Houston, where he's from, has the best pizza in the world. Now, if you would tell me that Houston has the best Mexican food in the United States, I would believe him. But to say that it has the best pizza, he's probably standing alone on that one.
We need to do a show on pizza.
Oh, speaking of pizza. All right. So when my son went cross country with the Sharks, by the way, my son now has a show here on.
Congratulations.
He does a pregame show for every show. He's going to start doing pregame shows on the Sharks every time they have a game. His first show was today. You can catch it on the app in the previously section. But he does a 10-minute pregame hype for the show. Today was with the Sharks and the Jets. It's here on the Mic'd Up app. But when he went cross country, one of the Sharks announcers, I think it's Randy Hahn, is from Connecticut. Randy Hahn, when Max was driving back and forth and going all over the place, Randy Hahn told him he needed to stop at a place for pizza. What place do you think Randy Hahn told him to stop at? You'll know the name of it. You and I went there.
Pepe's.
Yes,
El Pepe.
that's where Randy Hahn told him to go. Of course, Max couldn't stop because he was sort of flying over it. But
Frank Pepe's. Sorry.
and of course, and the other thing that Randy Hahn told him to do is make sure he goes to the Rockland Bakery, which of course Max knew all about that because that's where I'm from.
Mm.
So I got to sit higher here, otherwise I'm Kramer ass.
I think we need to do an episode. We need to do a best pizza episode.
Well, it's certainly not going to be the best pizza at a baseball stadium because I have not had good pizza at a baseball stadium ever.
Well, that's another thing. Food at ballparks. That would be a good one too.
We could do food at ballparks. I can tell you right now, it's amazing some of the food at some of the ballparks. This week, Tuesday night, I went to the Sharks game, and because my account with the Sharks, because I have season tickets, is all screwed up. My rep got me not only into the club section, but into the lounge where they have the buffet and the free food and free beer and wine. And the food was unbelievable. It was so good. They had some tri-tip. They had a pork loin that was stuffed. They had chicken skewers. They had this Asian noodle dish. It was fantastic. We do need to do it. Now you got me hungry because it's dinner time here.
We've got a friend who's trying to dial in to our show. Yeah. My friend Eric is trying to get in right now.
Well, what is he trying to get into the show, or is he trying to leave us a message?
He wants to leave a message.
Well, let me just say this to you. You said friend, and I know that's a lie because you have none. So let's talk Yankees for a little bit now.
Very mean thing to say.
Notice how you didn't say it's not true, though.
So, well, I am so hurt.
I was excited because when you first got on the call today, you were in the car with your wife. I thought we might actually have somebody who was not so ugly to look at on the show.
Is a beautiful woman, my wife. She certainly is. And she's a huge sports fan. Man, does she like the Yankees. You know what she said today? I told her I did a good job yesterday around second base on my team. My 55 and over baseball team, the Brooklyn Codgers, as we call them. Your brother is also a member.
It can't be very good. Richard is not the athlete that he claims to be.
Another FOS, friend of the show. But I felt good. I hadn't played in about really since we left Monterey a couple months ago. So I felt I haven't really worked out a lot. I'm in that sort of mid-season or off-season fat phase where I'm just enjoying the meals. And I went on a cruise, and
that's going to screw you up.
Lose weight. So
you're not playing at camp this year. So.
Not playing in camp, just going down for a few days to see the boys. But
hey, do you want to talk about Roy's book at all? Since you finished Roy's book, that would be Roy White, ladies and gentlemen.
I do want to talk about Roy's book a little bit.
Go ahead.
Good idea. You know, Roy White's an interesting guy. Just surprised me in a lot of ways. First of all, he's a gentleman. He's everything that I know him to be, and all of us do. Serious guy, but he was really a great baseball player. And I think you went over the stats. I was talking to him once, and he talks about this in the book a little bit, about how if things that matter today mattered then, he'd be, it's incredible. If you look at his stats from that era, pretty much a high mid 270s, 875 hitter, I believe. On base percentage every year in the upper threes, 390s, 380s, incredible. Struck out less than he walked in his career, or pretty close. Known for his two-strike hitting. Told me one of the things that he talks about in the book, when he'd be up in a tough game, tough situation, he would always, especially when he was left-handed, he would choke up. Anywhere from 2 to 3 inches on the bat, from 1 to 3 inches on the bat. And you saw that whenever he got up, in that very famous stance that as kids we always did. If I was going to switch it, I always did Bobby Mercer and Roy White. Those were the two.
Roy with the pitch and toes and the low bat.
Looking down.
And the lean in.
Looking down.
Yeah.
Oh,
The other one I liked is Chambliss with
it was great.
the get ready, and then the Mickey because he never stood still. Mickey Rivers.
Right. So, but these are things that mattered a lot. And he said that he got in one of the things in the book that I love. He said, um, he, Billy Martin had just taken over, and came in mid-season. Burden was a real tough guy, very, very hard during spring training. Would just kill them, worked them out to death. He said never had a tough spring training. Spring training is exactly as we've always known it to be. They go out to get some sun. They run around the field a couple times, maybe throw the ball around and take batting practice, and then they go play golf, and then they go to P.F. Chang's for dinner. It's always the same. Very clear routine. Not when Bill Verdon was a Yankee manager. Bill Verdon in 74, 75 just killed them, murdered them. And he said they walked out exhausted, now in great shape, but he had a much more Japanese style of the running drills, which was repetition. And he came back, and after he leaves, Martin comes in. Martin's much more of a statistician, or sorry, a
Strategy guy.
tactician during the game, would be in there really working everybody. And he scores a run, first and second, single to right field. Probably Chambliss scores him. He comes in, very important run, either it ties or it takes him to it. It puts him ahead late in the game. Comes running in, everybody's jumping on him. How great a job, beautiful run around third, and scores with an amazing slide. Billy comes up and says, you missed the sign. It was a hit and run. And he looks at him and goes, a hit and run with a man on first?
First and second.
First and second. Just never does it with first and second. He's never heard it. He said it was the last time he ever missed a sign with Bill. I mean, Billy couldn't care less that he scored the running run. He missed the sign.
Right. Good for Billy.
And he said that, for the most part, loved playing for all these managers, loved playing for Houck, who taught him how to play, really gave him confidence, let him play whenever you really put him in left field finally, gave him number 6, and that became his position. And he knew he was going to play every game. Guys like Martin never, made lots of promises. Lots of would always tell him he was going to play and then he didn't. A lot of platooning because he was Casey's boy. Just a really interesting story. But what I found most exciting, what I love most about the book, was after when he left the Yankees. When the Yankees told him he was too old to make as much money as he wanted, they literally said, "You're too old. We're not going to pay you this much money." And sure enough, turns out that Tiant had been paid more money and was, as everybody knew, was not 29 years old. And just have to see Tiant, in the last years when he was a Yankee camp, he was a little bit older than we thought. So he was pissed by that and decided at that point not to take it. He was also supposed to go to the California Angels. They actually wanted him. There was a trade. He was once traded, and he did a 10-5, which I didn't know.
I remember that. I don't remember what the trade was, but I remember him doing
the
10-5.
A's. He was going to the A's wanted him, and he turned down the trade because the A's had just dumped Joe Rudy. They just dumped everybody, and he didn't want to go. And then Charlie Finley calls him.
Yeah.
And says, we want to talk. Charlie Finley wants to call you. Phil Pepe calls him and says, Charlie Finley wants to talk to you. And he said, why? I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk. I don't need, I know what, I don't want to go. I'm not going from the greatest organization to some place where they're going to
bump everybody.
So great story. And then he goes off to Japan and is a star in Japan for 2 seasons, and says he's never worked harder. And great guys, always did everything the players did, even though he was allowed not to because he was an American player. He wanted to be part of it. I mean, just a very, very unassuming, interesting guy who doesn't get credit. And what I like about the book is everybody who speaks, they have sessions where they say it was Willie Randolph, Yankee, second baseman, captain, on playing with Roy White. And he'll have a chapter about what it was like playing for him. and playing with Roy. And everybody, to a man, says a gentleman and knowledgeable guy, stayed out of the trouble. Nobody doesn't. Everybody liked. Never heard a bad thing. But the
Makes sense.
but one thing that they all said is he's not recognized. How can the Yankees not recognize him in Monument Park? Everybody. So the book throughout the story, it's really an argument for why he should be there, and that there's so many lesser players and lesser men. Probably more importantly, lesser men.
A lot lesser men, that's for sure. I mean, look at it. I mean, we talked about this when we had that show about Monument Park, but I mean, a guy like Roger Maris doesn't deserve to have his number retired. Recognition, yes. What do you think, Kramer? Kramer says yes. All right, so recognition for guys like Roger Maris, yes, but doesn't deserve to get his number retired. He only played 3-4 seasons. Yes, he won 2 MVPs, but still, Reggie Jackson doesn't deserve to have his number retired, but he deserves to be recognized in Monument Park. Roy White certainly deserves to be recognized in Monument Park. Jake Gibbs deserves to be recognized in Monument Park for not just his playing career, where he taught Elston Howard how to catch and paved the way for Thurman Munson to become a better catcher, but for his years and years with the organization as a manager in the minor leagues. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jake Gibbs had a day. They had a Jake Gibbs day.
They did have a Jake Gibbs day, which I thought was great. I think I'd love to find a video somewhere of that.
Oh, there's definitely video out there. I send Jake a note. Well, I talk to Jake on a quasi-regular basis, but I send him a note every year on Jake Gibbs day. What's funny to me is Michael K show, they do a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes they do different things about what happened on this day in sports. And every year for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been sending him a note via Twitter because I have no contact with him saying, hey, this is the anniversary of Jake Gibbs Day, waiting for him to say it on the air, but not once so far.
The nerve. What else? Roy said something interesting. The general dislike of Reggie is very much a media construct.
Except for Mickey Rivers.
Mickey Rivers, Nettles, don't love him. But even they loved having him on the team because he was so damn good. Mm-hmm. He would come up, they just talk about Mr. October and how, when you're playing, really what matters is winning.
Right.
These guys want to play the best they can, but they want to win more than anything else, more than playing well. Almost, it seems that winning is more important to them, which is where it's a little different, I think, than when we go to camp. Like when you go to camp and your team wins and you hit, 400 and not 650 like everybody should at camp. You feel like I didn't contribute, I stank. It's diminished a little bit, but you really get the sense from these guys, and it's an area where I really respect them. That winning is what matters more. Their personal performance is important maybe for contracts, but a lot of these guys really do. And I don't know if that's something that exists still today. I'm just saying during that time, they really felt it was necessary to win baseball games.
Well, back then, the money that you got for winning was meaningful money.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about, Catfish Hunter, and they gave him the name Goldfish. But, he was only making a couple of $100,000 a year, which, yes, in 1974, it was a lot of money. Still a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But, it's still not close to $200,000, $300,000 that he was making back in 1974. Doesn't compare to, minimum salary now is $750.
Yeah.
And, you got guys, I mean, look, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I actually am one of the few Yankee fans who actually liked him. I just think his warts showed because he was overused for what he was supposed to be.
Yeah,
but didn't he just sign for $7 million? $7 million just now?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
That's a ridiculous amount of money. That's much more money than Catfish made in 1974, even accounting for inflation.
I wonder if a move like that is almost a thank you for doing, really, the world, we're not allowed to say it, but, the world rewards shit kickers. And you wonder if a guy like Kiner-Falefa got something, because he really did take one for the team last year. I mean, he played everywhere. He did well in a lot of situations that he probably shouldn't have. He wasn't a terrible outfielder, though he wasn't a good one. He was certainly a perfectly serviceable left fielder.
He was perfectly serviceable backup outfielder. and a
Yeah,
backup infielder, but they
and
played him every day.
my feeling wasn't that he was overutilized. I think he was overexposed. I think that when you see when a player isn't up to par, up to being a full time player, you can tell when they say stuff like he's exposed. He's a great backup. Some guys are not built to be 162 players.
No,
These guys ever do.
he's
That's another thing. Roy played like 162 games, 3 different years, I think, in his
right.
career, and
He
probably
never played less than 150.
yeah, when he did, it was because he was in a platoon role, and that was Billy Martin. Billy Martin really,
And these guys like IKF, I think that when you play them every day, they're going to be what they're going to be. But
yeah,
if you play IKF once or twice a week instead of 5 times a week, you're going to see he's going to make a good play. He's going to get a clutch hit. He's going to get on base. He's going to run the bases the right way. He's going to do a lot of stuff, the right things to do for a backup player. But when he plays every day, having a guy hit 220, 230 that plays every day, doesn't have any power, is not a stud fielder.
that's right.
That's a guy who shouldn't be playing every day. But having a guy, I think he's a winning player. He's
Yeah,
a winning player.
and they probably
Um,
see that, and that's probably reflected in his salary.
Yeah, and the fact that he played outfield for the Yankees, I think, is also reflected. He's no longer just a backup second baseman, shortstop, third baseman. Now he's a backup. He's a six position guy and your third catcher. If you hold it right there, it's like having Kramer on the show. Just so you know, it looks just like Kramer's on the show. He's measured up right in your face. Thank you. Much better when he's not in this picture. I can make it worse. I can go get my DeMeo bobblehead.
Don't you love number 42?
Hey, that was my last number. That's the number I wore at camp. So works
Oh,
for
well,
me. So the Yankees haven't done anything. There's not much to talk
yeah,
about. Let
very.
me take a quick look on the interwebs to see if there's anything going on. Because every show the last couple of weeks, the Yankees have done something. Something's happened during our show. So let's see if anything's happening during our show.
What do we think of Kramer brought up a deal today? The Yankees get somebody a pitcher.
Poteet, is that the guy they got? Cody Poteet.
Let's just see. Oh, let's talk about the guy that they did get this week. The guy they got in the. Take a look at the deal.
Cody Morris, the guy they got?
I don't hate that deal at all.
No, the Florial deal?
I'm okay with that.
Oh, Bubba. Oh, you talk about Bubba Thompson because they claimed him today too.
Oh, Bubba. The Yankees haven't had a Bubba in a long time. It's time.
It's
Bubba
time.
Powell was the last, or was it Bubba Crosby?
Oh, Crosby.
Who was going to be the center fielder until classic Yankee Deke there. That was a real baldy Deke. Well, we have a center fielder. It's Bubba Crosby. And then
Yeah, I remember that.
2 days later, they signed Damon to what, an $80 million contract.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's just nothing going on other than Sierra's related to Derek Jeter. That just took a woman out of his dating pool. That's all that did.
Yeah, Bubba Thompson, Yankee.
They had Bubba Crosby too, didn't they?
Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. This Blake Snell thing. I don't think the Yankees like Blake, like the idea of bringing this guy. He's an injured.
Not for the years and the money.
Yeah, I think that this is a lot of talk. They're not looking at this guy. I think this is an area where the media is doing what we're talking about here. Not the kind of player they need now. They're not going to pay 160 million plus. He's a Boris guy, right?
I think he is, yes.
So Boris is going to want more, which is why he hasn't signed already.
Wasn't Greg Maddux a Boris guy and he just totally abused the Yankees to get his price up to sign with the Braves?
I'm not sure if that. I know he did that. What do you think about David Robertson? He's out there.
Well, obviously they need to start it, but as far as the bullpen help, this guy's out there. I don't want him to sign Hader. I don't want any guy who refuses to go in a game ever. But Jordan Hicks, I didn't realize Jordan Hicks was still only 27 years old.
I like him. He's the one I would love to see.
Well, it scares me a little, but I like Robert Stevenson, although the downside on Stevenson, as good as he's been, where he struck out 43% of his batters and walked only 6%. But the Rays are letting him walk away, and that always scares me. When the Rays let a pitcher walk away, there's usually a reason. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But David Robertson, I think they need a guy that is reliable. Is he perfect? No, but he's reliable and he could be the closer. You know, if something happens, which happens every year, where either Holmes gets into a slump or gets hurt, and Loizaga can't do the job, Robertson's a nice fit for their bullpen. He absolutely is. And you know what you're getting with him. And he's not going to take up a lot of years, and he's not going to take up a lot of money. But Stevenson and Hicks, I think if they would have signed Stevenson and Hicks and Robertson, then they'd have a bullpen and they'd be done. Yeah, they need a swing man, but I think one of these young pitchers that they're looking at for the rotation, whether it be Beater or Heel or Hampton or any of these other guys that they're looking at as potentially being their fifth starter, those guys could slide in. There was a Warren, Yasrenis Gomez, Gill or Heel and Beater. Those guys are all going. You know, so a couple will be in the minors because you can't go through a season without six starters. But they need starters because you know, Rodon scares the heck out of you for obvious reasons.
Question right now. They
So
go
does
in
Nestor.
at this. How bad is that?
What'd you say?
They go in this season as is right now. You know what always happens?
Ugh.
Somebody looks better than they think. Somebody comes up from the minors and looks good. They get a lot more out of. Maybe you see Rodon, pulling it together because I think he will. I think he's going to have a good year. I just have a feeling last year was so disappointing for everybody involved. I think he's going to come in good shape. Watch him come in a little thin. I thought he was fat and looked out of shape last year. No offense to.
He's not a thin guy. He never was a thin guy.
If you're listening right now, my offense. I don't want to fat shame anybody, especially a great Yankee like Rodon. But
I can't fat shame anybody because it's, you know, looking in a mirror.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But the thing that I see is that he's going to do well this year. I just have a feeling he's going to come in better condition. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. Moving off, very big change of subject, but again, where the guy has to come in better shape. I really want to see Stanton come in leaner. Not he's a monster. Never.
There was a picture of Stanton in the Post yesterday.
And how did he look? Did he look like he?
But what happened was I think it was Jonathan Papelbon was talking trash about Stanton, and he looked leaner. I think that was the Post. I'm pretty sure it was the Post. And why Papelbon is
less muscle.
Why is Papelbon relevant? I don't know.
Everyone listens to this guy. What a moron! What a blithering moron! I can't stand him. These guys who come out and then talk almost out of school talk about baseball, which kind of annoys me. The stuff that they really inside baseball in baseball probably shouldn't be talked sometimes. And this is one of those guys. Schilling used to drive me crazy with that.
Well, Schilling had a lot of other issues besides baseball. So
yeah.
So all right. So yeah, we're winding down here, and I think this was a nice show. And I think not having anybody on other than the bobbleheads was just so you know.
Am I making
Todd Goober, Red Sox fan, chimed in. Moron is too nice. He thinks Papelbon's a douchebag. And that's a Red Sox fan. So
do I have the Kramer face down?
Yes, you do. Sadly, I don't know if you really want to admit to the Kramer face or not. So whatever. So we'll see what happens. We got to figure out what we're doing next week. We'll have to text and figure it out. I'll be on the road sending you Kramer pictures from my vacation. And we'll go from there. New report from NewJersey.com, which I guess is the Star Ledger, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's Montgomery wants to stay in Texas.
I really like those guys. We won a World Series together. I only played there for 3 weeks, but I loved it. Listen,
what can you do?
The Yankees offer him $200 million. He'll take it. He's coming to the Yankees.
All right. I'll speak to you this week, and we'll figure out what's going on. All right. Take it easy, Mr. Adam. For those of you who actually listened to us, thank you very much. And we'll have this posted on the previous section on Mic'd Up and on our YouTube page as well. Thanks a lot, and good night. Good luck. Stay out of trouble, or at least don't get caught.